The sound of a zipper breaking is louder than you think, especially when it's raining, especially when you're standing on a concrete driveway, staring at your clothes scattered in a puddle, and don't come back. The scream tore through the quiet suburban afternoon. I looked up. Jessica was standing in the doorway, my wife of 6 months. She wasn't crying. She wasn't sad. She was smiling, actually. It was more of a sneer. She held a glass of white wine in one hand. Her other hand was gripping the brass handle of the heavy oak door. "Did you hear me, David?" she shouted, her voice shrill enough to make the neighbor's dog bark 2 houses down. "I said, get the hell off my property." I stood there. Rainwater dripped off the tip of my nose. I felt the cold seep into my socks. I looked down at my favorite leather jacket. It was soaking in a mix of rainwater and motor oil from the driveway. "Jessica," I said. My voice was calm unnaturally. "Calm? It's pouring. Let me just get my things inside and we can talk." "Talk?" She laughed. It was a cruel, sharp sound. "We are done talking. I spoke to my lawyer this morning. You have no rights here. This is my house. My name is on the deed. My parents built this place. You are nothing but a squatter." She took a sip of wine. She swirled it in the glass, watching me shiver. "I want you gone before the police get here," she added casually. "You called the cops?" I asked. "Of course I did." She said, "I told them there's an intruder refusing to leave the premises. They should be here any minute." I looked at the house. It was beautiful, a sprawling 2-story colonial with white pillars and black shutters. The house she loved more than she ever loved me. The house she dangled over my head every single day of our marriage. "Jessica," I said, taking a step forward, "you don't want to do this. Stop." She shrieked, "Don't you dare take another step on my porch. This is my house, mine. You're just a broke loser who thought he could ride my coattails." I stopped. I looked her in the eyes. I saw the greed, I saw the arrogance, but mostly I saw the stupidity. She really thought she had won. She thought that because her name was on the deed, she was untouchable. She didn't know about the mail. She didn't know about the letters I'd intercepted 3 months ago. She definitely didn't know about the LLC I formed last week. "Okay," I said quietly. She blinked. "What?" I said, "Okay." I bent down. I started gathering my wet clothes. I shoved a soaking wet dress shirt into my duffel baggie, picked up my framed photo of my mother. The glass was cracked. "That's right." She sneered. "Pack up your trash. I'll leave," I said, zipping up the bag. "But Jessica?" "What?" she snapped. "Make sure you keep the heat on," I said. "Pipes burst easily in this weather. It would be a shame to damage the asset." She looked confused for a split second. Then she scoffed. "Get out of here, David." SLAM. The heavy door swung shut. Click, click. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home. I stood there for a moment, the rain matting my hair to my forehead. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't sad. He reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I dialed a number I had saved under asset management. "Hello?" A voice answered. "Hey, it's David," I said, wiping water from my eyes. "Yeah, she just kicked me out. We can proceed. Execute the clause." I looked up at the bedroom window. I saw the curtain twitch. She was watching Mesh. Thought this was the end of the story. She had no idea. It was just the beginning of her nightmare to understand why I was standing in the rain, smiling like a maniac. You have to go back 80 months. That's when I met her. It was a charity gala. I was there representing my company. I own a logistics firm, trucks, shipping, warehouses. It's not sexy work. It's not glamorous. I don't wear suits often. I drive a Ford F-15. Oh, I don't flash cash. Most people think I'm middle management. Or maybe a driver. I like it that way. Keeps the gold diggers away, or so. I thought. Jessica was wearing a red dress that cost more than my first car. She was radiant. She was holding court at the bar, laughing at someone's joke. I walked up to order a whiskey. She turned to me. "Rough day?" she asked, eyeing my scuffed watch. "Long day," I corrected. "I'm David." "Jessica," she said. She extended a hand. Her manicure was flawless. "What do you do, David?" "I work in shipping," I said. "Logistics." I saw her eyes flicker. She scanned Mesh, saw the plain suit, the lack of a Rolex. "Oh," she said. Her tone dropped a few degrees. "That sounds steady. It pays the bills." I said modestly. "I'm in interior design," she said, flipping her hair. "High-end residential, mostly heritage homes, actually. I live in one, my family estate there. It was within 30 seconds the house. Is that so?" I asked. "Oh, yes," she said. Leaning in the Hawthorne house, it's been in my family for 3 generations. It's a landmark fully restored. It's my baby. She talked about that house for 20 minutes. She talked about the crown molding, the imported Italian marble in the foyer, the history. She didn't talk about her passions or her dreams or her family. Just the house. I should have seen the red flag. It wasn't a red flag. It was a giant neon sign screaming, "Run." But I was lonely. I had spent 10 years building my business, neglecting my personal life. I wanted someone to share things with. Aunt Jessica, she was charismatic, she was funny, she seemed to have her life together. You should come see it sometime, she said, finishing her drink. The house, a week later, Dee pulled into the driveway, the same driveway where my clothes would later be scattered. It was impressive, a grand, imposing structure. It's mortgage-free, she told me proudly. As she gave me the tour, my parents left it to me free and clear. I don't owe a dime to anyone. That's true wealth. David, ownership. She looked at me when she said it like she was teaching me a lesson. Must be nice, I said, admiring the high ceilings. It is, she said, but it's expensive to maintain, heating, taxes, repairs. It takes a certain caliber of person to appreciate a home like this. I nodded. I fell for the image she projected, the independent, wealthy heiress who just needed a partner, not a provider. We started dating for the first 3 months. It was great. We went to nice dinners. I paid. Of course, I'm a bit illiquid right now, she would say, pushing the check toward me. My money is tied up in the trust. You don't mind, do you? Not at all, I said. I didn't mind. I have plenty of money, but I never told her exactly how much. I told her I got a promotion at work. That's cute, she said. Maybe one day you can afford a membership at my country club. She was condescending, but in a playful way, or so I told myself 6 months in. I proposed. I didn't buy a massive diamond. I bought a tasteful, high-quality ring. She looked at it. She didn't cry. She squinted. It's sweet, she said. A bit small, but it's the thought that counts, right? She said yes, but she had conditions. I want to get married here, she said, at the house, ideally in the garden. Sure, I said. And David? Yeah? We need to talk about living arrangements. She sat me down on her velvet sofa. She looked serious. This house is my legacy, she said. I can't risk it if we get married. You need to sign a prenup. The house stays mine forever, no matter what happens. I smiled. Jessica, I have no interest in taking your house. I'll sign whatever you want. She looked relieved. Good, she said. Because this roof? It's the only thing that matters to me. She wasn't lying. I signed the prenup. It stated clearly, the property located at 42 Oak Lane remains the sole property of Jessica Hawthorne. David Miller has no claim to the equity or title. I signed it without hesitation. I had my own assets to protect, which I kept in separate trusts. She didn't know about. We got married in the backyard. It was a beautiful day. Her mother, Linda, was there. Linda was a carbon copy of Jessica, just 30 years older and with more hairspray. During the reception, Linda cornered me near the bar. You're a lucky man, Linda said, sipping champagne I had paid for. I am, I said. She could have married a doctor, you know, Linda said, or a lawyer, someone with status. I stiffened. But she chose you, Linda sighed. She says you're manageable. Manageable? I asked. Safe, Linda corrected. Just don't forget whose house you're sleeping in tonight. David, you're a guest in the Hawthorne legacy. Don't scuff the floors. She patted my cheek. It felt like a slap. I watched Jessica across the lawn. She was dancing, twirling in her white dress, looking up at the house. She wasn't looking at Mesh, was looking at the balcony. I should have known then. I was just a tenant who paid in attention and utility bills, but I was about to find out just how expensive the rent really was. The honeymoon phase lasted exactly 2 weeks. We didn't go on a honeymoon. Jessica said she couldn't leave the house. The gardener is coming this week, she said. I have to supervise him. He pruned the roses wrong last year, so we stayed home. I went back to work. When I came home that first Friday, I walked through the front door. I was tired. I tossed my keys on the entry table. David. A scream came from the living room. I jumped. Jessica came running out. She looked horrified. What? I asked, panicked. Is someone hurt? She pointed a shaking finger at the table. At my keys. The mahogany. She hissed. You threw your keys on the antique mahogany without a tray. I looked at the table. It was a table. Jessica, it's just keys. I said, just keys? She gasped. Do you know how easily this wood scratches? My grandfather bought this table in Paris in 1950. She snatched up my keys and held them like they were radioactive waste. There are rules. David, she said, her eyes were cold, if you are going to live in my house, you will respect it. She walked to the kitchen and came back with a laminated sheet of paper. She slapped it on my chest. What is this? I asked. The house rules. She said. I looked at the list. 1. No shoes past the foyer. 2. No eating in the living room. 3. No personal items left on common surfaces. 4. Shower squeegee must be used after every use. No water spots. 5. Garage is for Jessica's car only. David parks in the driveway. 6. Temperature stays at 68 degrees. No touching the thermostat. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. This is funny, I said. She didn't smile. Do I look like I'm joking? She asked. I stopped laughing. Jessica, I live here too. I'm your husband. You live here because I allow it? She said. The air left the room. Excuse me? You heard me, she said, crossing her arms. This is my asset. You bring what? A paycheck? That covers the electric bill. This house covers our lifestyle. You are a guest. David, a permanent guest. Sure, but a guest. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I pay for all the groceries. I said softly, I'd pay the utilities. I'd pay for your car insurance. I pay for our dinners. And that's your contribution, she said dismissively. Rent? Basically, rent. She called it rent. I should have left then, but I'm stubborn and I loved her, or I thought Dee thought she was just stressed. I thought she was protective of her family history, okay? I said, I'll be more careful. She smiled. It was that same smug smile I saw today in the rain. Good boy, she said. She patted my cheek, just like her mother. Over the next few months, the list got longer and the bills got higher. The roof needs patching. She told me one morning over coffee, it's going to be $5,000. Okay, I said. Do you want me to call a guy? I already hired someone, she said. They need a check today. She looked at me expectantly. You want me to pay for it? I asked. Well, I can't, she said, buttering her toast. My dividends are down this quarter, and since you live under the roof, you should help maintain it. But the prenup, I said. The house is yours. Repairs are your responsibility, she slammed the butter knife down. Oh my God, David, she yelled. Stop being so cheap. Do you want rain in our bedroom? Do you want mold? Be a man. Be a man. The ultimate manipulation. I wrote the check 2 weeks later. It was the boiler $3,000, then it was the landscaping $2,000. It adds value to the property. She said. To your property, I reminded her. Our home. She corrected. Stop splitting hairs. I was pouring money into a pit. I didn't know, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was Linda. Her mother moved in 3 months after the wedding, just for a few weeks. Jessica said her condo's being fumigated. Linda never left. She took over the guest room. She sat in the living room all day, watching TV and criticizing me. David walks heavy, Linda would say to Jessica while I was in the room. He's loosening the floorboards. I know, Mom, Jessica would sigh. I've told him. And that truck? Linda wrinkled her nose. It's an eyesore in the driveway. Can't he park it on the street? I'll ask him, Jessica said. I was sitting right there. I can hear you, I said. They both looked at me like the furniture had started talking. Oh, David. Linda said, we didn't know you were home. You're so quiet like a mouse. I'm not parking on the street, I said. It's my truck. It lowers the property value. Jessica snapped. Just do it for Mom, okay? She has high blood pressure. I parked on the street. I was losing myself piece by piece. I was becoming a ghost in my own marriage. But then the letters started coming. It was a Tuesday. I came home early from work usually. I worked late to avoid Linda and the house rules, but I had a head pulled up to the curb because I wasn't allowed in the driveway. I walked to the mailbox usually. Jessica got the mail. She was obsessive about it. She would meet the mailman at the gate, but she wasn't home. Her car was gone. I opened the box. It was full catalogs for expensive furniture, a bill for the country club, and 3 envelopes with red stamping on them. FINAL Notice Urgent Open IMIDITL, where they were addressed to Jessica from National Trust Bank. I frowned. She told me the house was paid off. She told me she had no debt, free and clear. She had said, true wealth. I flipped the envelope over. I shouldn't have opened it. It's a felony, right? But we were married, and I had just paid $4,000 to fix her plumbing. I tore it open, my eyes scanned the document. Default notice, outstanding balance, $642,000 arrears. $48,000 foreclosure proceedings will commence. Only froze $642,000. The house was worth maybe $800,000 in this market. She didn't own it. She barely owned the doorknobs. She had mortgaged it to the hilt. I opened the second letter. It was a credit card statement balance. $32,000 minimum payment past due. I opened the third, another loan, a home equity line of credit, maxed out at $100,000. I did the math in my head. She was broke, not just broke, she was drowning. She was nearly $1 million in debt, and she was using my money, the grocery money, the repair money, to make minimum payments on credit cards to keep the lights on. The dividends she talked about, they didn't exist. The trust, empty. She was living a lie, and I was funding. I felt a wave of nausea. It wasn't just about the money, it was the arrogance, the way she treated me like a peasant because I didn't have legacy wealth. Meanwhile, she was 1 month away from losing everything. Heard a car engine. I looked up. Jessica's Mercedes pulled into the driveway. She parked in the center like a queen. She got out, wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying shopping bags, designer bags, Gucci, Prada, new clothes bought with money she didn't have. She saw me by the mailbox. She froze. Her eyes dropped to the red envelopes in my hand. For a second, I saw fear, pure, unadulterated panic, but then it vanished. She straightened her spine. She walked toward me, the gravel crunching under her heels. "David," she said, her voice tight, "why are you home early?" "I have a headache," I said. I held up the letters. "Jessica, what is this?" She snatched them from my hand. "How dare you?" she hissed. "That is federal mail. You have no right. It says foreclosure." "Jessica," I said, "you told me the house was paid off." She laughed, a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "Oh, that?" She waved her hand. "That's just a clerical error. I'm handling it. My accountant is dealing with the bank. It's a mix-up with the trust fund transfer." "A mix-up?" I asked. "It says you owe $50,000 in back payments." I said, "I'm handling it." She shouted, "Stop being so dramatic. This is complex financial stuff. David, you wouldn't understand. You move boxes for a living." She tried to push past. May grabbed her arm gently. "Jessica, are we in trouble?" I asked. "I can help if you're honest with me." She ripped her arm away. "I don't need your help." She spat. "I don't need your little truck driver money. This is my house, my business. You just pay the electric bill and keep your nose out of my affairs." She stormed into the house. I stood there. The truck driver money, if only she knew my logistics company. We just signed a contract with a national retailer. My net worth was just north of $8 million. I could have written a check that day and cleared her entire debt. I would have if she had just been nice, if she had just admitted she was scared, but she didn't. It chose to belittle me, chose to lie, and that's when the idea formed. I didn't go inside immediately. I got in my truck. I drove to a coffee shop. I pulled out my laptop. I looked up the bank that sent the letter, National Trust. I knew people in distressed debt. I knew how banks worked. They hate foreclosing. It takes years. It's expensive. They would rather sell the bad debt to someone else for pennies on the dollar and wash their hands of it. Picked up my phone. I dialed my lawyer. Sleek, shark-like man named Marcus. "Marcus," I said. "David, everything okay?" "No," I said. "I need you to open a new LLC for me, anonymous blind trust ownership." "Okay," Marcus said. "What's the name?" I looked out the window at the rain starting to fall. "Call it Karma Holdings," I said. "And what is Karma Holdings buying?" Marcus asked. "A mortgage," I said. "A very specific distressed mortgage." "David," Marcus warned, "is this wise?" "No," I said. "It's justice." The next 2 weeks were a blur of tension. Jessica acted like nothing had happened. She hid the mail. She bought more clothes. She was in denial, but I was busy. Marcus worked his magic. He contacted the bank. They were thrilled. A cash buyer offering to take a non-performing loan off their books. They practically rolled out the red carpet. I bought the debt. I bought the mortgage for $580,000, a discount technically. I didn't own the house yet. He owned the property, was the bank, which meant Jessica now owed me the money, but she didn't know that. She thought she was still dodging National Trust. I was waiting for the right moment to tell her. Maybe I would offer her a payment plan. Maybe I would forgive it if she agreed to kick her mother out and treat me with respect. I was still holding on to hope. I was an idiot. The final straw came on a Sunday. I was in the garage, where I wasn't allowed to park, working on a woodworking project. It was my only hobby. Jessica came in. She was holding a clipboard. David, she said, we need to talk about the kitchen. What about it? It's dated, she said. The cabinets are from 2010. It's embarrassing. I'm hosting the Charity League brunch next month. We need to renovate. Renovate? I put down my sander. Jessica, you're broke. The bank is chasing you. I told you to drop. That, she snapped. That is resolved. It's not resolved. I said, it is, she screamed, and stop bringing up money. It's tacky. She took a breath. Anyway, I got a quote. It's $60,000 for new cabinets and quartz counters. She looked at me. I need you to pay for it. I stared at her. No, I said. Excuse me? No, I repeated. I'm not putting 60 grand into a kitchen. When you can't pay the mortgage, her face went red. You selfish prick, she yelled. You live here. You eat in that kitchen. You owe me. I owe you nothing. I said, I pay for everything we consume. You provide the shell, and the shell is cracking. Get out, she said. What? Get out of my garage. She screamed. If you aren't going to contribute to this family, then get out of my sight. She kicked my toolbox. It spilled across the floor. And another thing, she said, her eyes wild. I invited Mark over for dinner tonight. He's an actual investor. He understands value. He's going to help me with the refinancing. Mark, her ex-boyfriend. One she stayed friends with. You invited your ex to dinner? I asked. He's a financial advisor. She said, since my husband is too useless to help, I have to go elsewhere. She turned and stormed out. That was it. The switch flipped. I wasn't going to save Harry, wasn't going to offer a payment plan. I was going to burn it down. I cleaned up my tools. I went inside. I showered. I put on my best suit. I walked downstairs. Mark was there. He was sitting on my spot on the sofa, drinking my scotch. He was a slick guy, shiny suit veneers. David, he said, not standing up. Long time no see. Buddy, Jessica tells me things are tight. He smirked. Jessica was in the kitchen, humming, we're just discussing options. Mark said, I think I can get her a hard money loan, high interest, but hey, desperate times. He was going to shark her. He was going to take the house too. But he was going to rip her off doing. I poured myself a water. Good luck with that. Mark, I said. I looked at Jessica. I'm going out, I said. Good, she said, not looking up from the salad. Don't rush back, Mark, and I have a lot of numbers to crunch. I walked out the door. I didn't come back that night. I stayed at a hotel the next morning. I texted Marcus TXT to Marcus. Proceed with foreclosure. Accelerate the timeline. MARCUS. You sure? She's your wife. DAVID. Not for long. Serve the papers. I went back to the house 3 days later. That brings us to the rain to the bags on the driveway. 2. The moment she thought she was kicking out a deadbeat, I went to stay at my apartment. Yes, I have an apartment. I bought it years ago as a rental property. It was empty between tenants. It's a luxury penthouse downtown. It's nicer than her house, but she never knew about it. Sat there for a week, watching the rain hit the floor-to-ceiling windows. I didn't call her. She didn't call. Mesh probably thought I was sleeping in my truck. I checked my email. My automated system from the LLC showed that the notice of acceleration had been delivered to the house via certified mail 2 days ago. She had received it. She knew that Karma Holdings LLC was now the owner of her debt end. That Karma Holdings was demanding full payment of the $642,000 immediately. Or she had to vacate. I wondered if she had connected the dots. Probably not. She was probably calling Mark, begging for that loan. My phone rang. It was Linda, her mother. I stared at the screen. I answered. Hello, Linda. David. She screeched, where the hell are you? I'm away, I said. Well, you need to come back here right now and fix this, she yelled. Fix what? Some company is trying to steal the house, she cried. They sent a letter. They say they bought the mortgage. They want to kick us out? That sounds serious, I said, sipping my coffee. Serious? It's criminal. She yelled, Jessica is a mess. She's crying. She can't reach her lawyer. You need to do something. You have that truck. Maybe you can, I don't know, sell it. We need money. David, I laughed, a deep belly laugh. You want me to sell my truck to pay her mortgage? It's your duty. Linda shouted, you are the man of the house. Actually, Linda, I said, according to Jessica, I'm just a guest, remember? A tenant. Don't you get smart with me? I'm not getting smart, I said. I'm getting real. Jessica kicked me out. She told me to leave, so I left. She didn't mean it. Linda pleaded. Her tone shifted. She sounded desperate. She was just stressed. Mark couldn't help her. He wanted 15% interest. She needs you. David, she needs my wallet, I corrected. What difference does it make? Linda snapped. Just come home. I can't, I said. Why not? Because, I said, leaning back in my leather chair, I'm busy doing what? Being the landlord, I whispered. I hung up. I blocked the number. The game was entering the final phase. I called Marcus. Set up the meeting. I said, tell her the representative from Karma Holdings wants to meet to discuss an exit strategy for her. You want to go in person? Marcus asked. Oh, yeah, I said. I wouldn't miss this for the world. She recognized you. David, that's the point. Marcus, that is entirely the point. The meeting was set for Friday at 10 o'clock. I'm at the house. I told Marcus to tell her that the director of asset recovery would be coming. I drove my truck, but I didn't park on the street. I pulled right into the driveway, right in the center. I blocked her Mercedes. I got out. The sun was shining this time. I adjusted my tie. I carried a briefcase. I walked up the steps. I didn't knock. I had a key, but the locks had been changed. Of course, I rang the doorbell. Jessica opened it. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red. Her hair was messy. She was wearing sweatpants. She saw me. Her face went from confusion to rage in a millisecond. You? She shrieked. What the hell are you doing here? I told you to stay away. She tried to slam the door. I put my foot in the jam. Jessica, stop, I said. I'm calling the police again. She screamed. You're stalking me. I wouldn't do that, I said. Calmly, why? Because, I said, pushing the door open firmly. I'm not here as your husband. I stepped into the foyer. I didn't take off my shoes. I ground my heel into the expensive rug. David. Your shoes, she yelled. Get out. I'm here representing Karma Holdings LLC, I said. She froze. Her mouth opened. What? I'm the director, I said, and the sole proprietor. She stared at me. Her brain was trying to process it. You work for the company that is suing me? No, Jessica, I said. I am the company. I walked into the living room. Linda was there, watching the view. She looked up. David, did you bring a check? In a way, I said. I tossed the file on the mahogany table. The one I wasn't allowed to touch. It slid across the surface, leaving a tiny scratch. Jessica gasped. David, what are you saying? She whispered. I bought your mortgage, I said. I bought your debt. National Trust sold it to me last week. I looked around the room. I own this house. Jessica, well, I own the loan, and since you haven't paid it in 6 months, I sat down on the sofa. I'm foreclosing. She started to shake. You're lying. She said, you don't have that kind of money. You drive a Ford. I have $8 million in assets, Jessica. I said casually, I own a logistics fleet. The Ford is just comfortable. Her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the chair opposite me. The color drained from her face. It was like watching a ghost die. You're rich? She stammered. Yes, and you watch me struggle? She cried. You watch me drown in debt? I tried to help, I said. I offered to pay for repairs. I paid for our life, but you treated me like a servant. You treated me like a wallet that wasn't deep. Enough, but we're married, she wailed. What's yours is mine. Not according to the Pre-Nup, I smiled. I pulled a copy of the Pre-Nup from my briefcase. Remember this? The property remains the sole property of Jessica. David has no claim to the equity. See? She pointed. It's mine. Exactly. I said, the equity is yours, but you have no equity. You have debt. The Pre-Nup protects me from your debt, but it doesn't stop me from buying it as a third party. I leaned forward. You wanted separate finances. Jessica, you wanted to be the owner. Well, now you're just a delinquent borrower. Linda stood up. You monster, she yelled. You can't do this to family. You kicked me out in the rain, Linda, I said. You told me to park on the street. You treated me like garbage. I looked back at Jessica. So here are your options. I said, option A. You pay me the full $642,000 plus legal fees by Monday, she sobbed. I can't. I continued, you sign the deed over to Karma Holdings in lieu of foreclosure. You move out. I forgive the remaining debt so you don't go bankrupt. Move out? She whispered, but it's my legacy. It was your legacy, I said. Now it's my rental property. Please, David. She begged. She reached for my hand. Please, I love you. We can fix this. I'm sorry I was stressed. Let's just start over. I looked at her handy, remembered how she looked when she kicked my toolbox. I remembered the guest comments. I pulled my hand away. I'm not in love with you anymore. Jessica, I said, I was in love with the person I thought you were. I stood up. You have until Monday to decide. If not, the sheriff comes on Tuesday for the eviction. I walked to the door. Oh, I stopped, and Linda? What? The old woman hissed. Get your feet off my coffee table. Continue.